Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Bianca Swikard. If you are new here, I am a Reiki and tarot reader. Also, I specialize in holistic and spiritual wellness. This is something that I have never done before, and it's something that I'm really excited to do. I brought on my friend Jen Fricelli here. She specializes in everything astrological and birth charts. We were talking, one-on-one a couple weeks ago about the way that the stars and the planets are aligning, everything that's happening in the cosmos and everything that's happening with the shift in consciousness and how it's affecting the collective and society. And we were having this really interesting conversation. So I figured I wanted to bring it here online because I think that there's a lot of valuable information that needs to be brought to the collective. And Jen, thank you
Hey,
for the time to do this with me
of
today.
course, of course.
Um, just a little backstory
Yeah.
about myself and Jen. We've known each other for like 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
When I awakened in 2021, I think that might have been one of the first people that I came to talk to
yeah,
about.
yeah.
And so it's been kind of like you saw me when I was going through the awakening. So it was
Mhm.
like, what is happening? What is going on? And now I'm spit out on the other end. And it's been quite the experience,
Mhm.
quite the experience. And so, since then we've been connected, on a deeper level. And I love talking to you because you always show me a different perspective of what's going on astrologically.
Yeah. The behind the scenes information of the Earth movie. That's what I like to call it. It's your movie script. So it's so fun.
What I really like about the perspective that you bring is that you are so knowledgeable astrologically. I
Yeah.
think that when you talk to you can see a lot of stuff on like YouTube and you see a lot of stuff on TikTok and it's like little snippets, but I've never seen anybody really approach it the way that you do, where you have like a definitive map of the planets, like almost like photogenically in your
I
brain.
do. That's so funny you say that because I don't have a photographic memory anywhere else in my life, but I do with the charts.
It's so crazy. And it's just, she will pull your chart one time, and then she'll be able to tell you about you better than you for the rest of your life. Like it just lives imprinted in her.
That's so accurate.
So every once in a while, I'll text her and I'll be like, what's going on? Going on in my life.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so let's
That's
look
so fun.
a little bit about you. Like, what's your
Yeah.
background?
Yeah.
How did you get into this? Like,
Yes, I would love to explain. Yeah. So I am about to be 44 and I got into this when I was like 15, 16. So it's been my whole life journey. I started spiritually seeking very young and I was just with my friends. We were like skipping class and someone had a book on astrology and I like read it. And I remember reading my sign and thinking, "Oh, this is so me." And then I got the book and kind of showed it to other people. And some people were like, "No, that's not me at all," when they would read their sign. And so there was a discrepancy and my brain is very logical and I like to be, a little skeptical about things sometimes. So I was like, this is silly. This astrology thing is silly. So I ended up getting another book called The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need. And ironically, I looked back 10 years later, and it was actually by the same author, which is so funny. And so I was able to drop my chart by hand back in the day. And I like
back in the day.
back in the day, like 1996. And I was like, wait a minute, my moon's Capricorn. This is even more accurate. Like I was just so blown away. Now, just to note, in my system, I will explain my system in a second, but in my system, my moon in Capricorn and my sun in Sagittarius are both on my comfort zone side. So to read them both and be so me, that was the discrepancy. Whereas for others, they could read that and not doesn't feel like it's them. So I'll get into that in a second. But that was when I went to college. So for 4 years, I studied music theater. And being someone who was doing that, I was very into, characters and why we are the way we are. So I was the weird girl at the keg party being like, what time are you born when people are making out at like 3 a.m.? And I'm going back to my dorm room, like,
Oh my gosh, I love that. I never knew that about you.
yeah, yeah. So and my nickname's JFO. So it became like a thing where JFO would do your birth chart. It just became a party trick. It was fun. It was cool. And for me, it was more like more market research, on this thing, right? So about like, I would say probably after college, maybe like toward like I would say maybe 10 years from finding this information, I discovered the north and south node. And it's just the path of the moon and the path of the sun. They never meet, but they meet at one point in the north, one point in the south. So when you hear the phrase follow the North Star, that's like what this is, right? So I was like, oh my God, this is it. It's this. So I realized that the south node theme is actually more important than your sign. And I think that's where popular astrology misses the mark a little bit. Popular astrology is very like, your moon's this, your sun's this, and it's very separated. And what I realized is when you took a 360-degree circle, the picture of your movie script on the day you were born, right? And you break it into two equal halves, right? And it's kind of like that art project where you like fold the paper and you make a heart, and it's like the same on each side. That's the birth chart. Because whatever you got happening on this side, it's the opposite on this side. It's all duality, right? It's all a metaphor for life. So that separation is the hero's journey. That's what makes it like this, where it's like what I do best, what I really want, and analyzing those two sides. So the way I do my system is I don't even look at your sun sign until I know what side it's on. Right. So for me, it's about the destiny side versus the comfort zone side. And I think that's why my system resonates with so many people, because it's just like, whoa, how do you know me? And because it's really your intention you set forth before you came into this physicality game. Right.
Yeah.
And then the free will, that's why it's called destiny vibes, because the free will is the vibes, which is the most important work of it all. Right. Yeah.
I heard someone explain it the other day where it's kind of just like a blueprint, right? Like it's a blueprint
Yes.
how you intend to experience your learnings and your lessons when you come into the
Yeah.
world, right? Like, and it's kind of you choose the way that the planets are aligned. It's not hard,
Yeah.
fixed, fast, but it's kind
Right.
of idea of like the learnings you're trying to understand.
Yes. And the other day I was reading a book by a spiritual teacher, and she was saying how we pick the family we're going to be in. We pick our soul contracts. We pick the things we want to work, the themes we want to work on. The whole purpose of the Earth experiment is to have the contrast, to like, experience. And so a lot of times a lot of the hard things we go through, like are part of our themes, but we don't have the way I do my destiny vibe system is I don't believe in horoscopes like this is what's going to happen to you and the powers outside of you. I believe that I am just a really fluent person in this language, and I can teach you how to speak the language so that you could do it yourself and you can have the power with
You
it.
are really fluent. You are
I'm
really
very fluent. Yes, I'm extremely
fluent.
fluent.
I have like a very basic level, like where is the bathroom understanding of astrology.
That's amazing.
But so the reason why I wanted to do this is because
Yeah.
I've just obviously, since I've been awakened, I've noticed more of an awakening, right? So like we're
Yeah.
seeing this progression of awakening happening, and even if people around you are not awakening, what I've noticed is
Yeah.
you might be awakening or you might be awakened and nobody else around you is awakened or whatever.
Hmm.
Even if the people around you aren't awakened, not everybody is really opposed to the
Yeah.
woo or the weirdness that you're talking about.
Right.
There is going to be that shift. There is
Mhm.
two collectives kind of forming right now. The people who
Yeah.
are like awakened and like not totally opposed, and the people who are like, that's crazy. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like, I'm just gonna live on the other side. And so we're having these two collectives, but I'm finding more and more that the shift is happening to this, like, I mean, 10 years ago, if I started talking about Reiki and tarot and crystals and energy on
Yeah.
my social media, I like I feel like no everybody in my life would be like, what are you doing, Bianca? You're going through a midlife crisis. Like you're going through something. Are you going to cut your bangs now?
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like, well, I see where you're coming from. And so, and as the years have, I've only been awakened for 3 years.
Yeah.
And even since I have awakened, I've noticed this huge just collective, right? Like there, it was very lonely when I was going through it, but I'm like, oh, but I'm not alone. Like there's so many of us.
Yes.
Like even just randomly having you in my network already, I was like,
Yeah.
okay. So like there's people who are already have experienced this, but more and more people are awakening
Mhm.
every day. And it's kind of like this shift that's happening.
Yeah.
Um, it's very interesting to be on this side of it and watching as more and more people are starting to open up to the possibility
Mhm.
of maybe Earth is not just the experience that we're experiencing here on
Yeah.
Earth. There is a reason behind it. Maybe there is more to it, of what we are experiencing and
Mhm.
what our reality is. And you sent me a video like 2 weeks
Mhm.
ago, and you were talking about the astrology of this great awakening. So I was
Yeah.
let's map it out. Like, let's talk.
Yes.
It's like there's a lot of stuff that we can talk conceptually
Mhm.
regarding like what we see and what we're noticing. But I want to know like the behind the scenes on the planets. Like, what are you
Yeah.
like? Let's break it down a little bit. Like,
Yeah. And also I just want to kind of like maybe ground ourselves in like what this awakening is. Like
yeah,
what do you
yeah,
mean,
please.
Bianca, awakening? And I will say that I think we've always, I mean, I'm sure you can agree. Like I've always had like a dabble of like, wait a minute. Hmm, my whole life. Like, so it wasn't like I awakened in one moment. It was like it was a progression. I'm sure it was the same for you. But I fully woke up in 2020. That was when I fully woke up. And I think it's important to understand that there's a veil.
Hmm.
And we chose to come into this earth experience. And I like to call it like we dropped into physicality and it's an earth experiment. That's what I always like to say, for the purposes of expansion, right? And we knew when we dropped in that there'd be a veil, that we would totally forget who we really are. And who we really are is our soul, right?
Do that.
Yeah, why did we do that? But
Why did
we
we do that? But
we
go ahead.
knew it'd be fun. And I always like to use the analogy. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the show Once Upon a Time. I always binge it, but like they live in a town called Storybrooke, and they all believe that Storybrooke is real. Like Snow White thinks she's Mary Margaret, and she's like, I'm a teacher and I'm Mary Margaret, but she's really Snow White in the Enchanted Forest. But the evil witch casted this spell. So they all forgot that they actually are from this enchanted forest, right? So I like to use that analogy because it's kind of fun. Like like I think that I am Jennifer, right? But I'm not. I am consciousness. I am
Right.
consciousness, right? So we chose to play this game of the character. That's why I love my hero's journey roadmap because it puts it into a movie script. We're never going to go watch a movie where the character's just sitting on the couch doing nothing. We're going to see like there's the adversary and there's and then there's the hero. And so that is truly happening in our world. Now, technically, when you talk about the enemy, that really all that means, all that Satan means is the adversary. Anything that's the adversary to what true love is, right? So even our ego is the adversary. But in this awakening, there has been some type of weirdness where we've been programmed to believe that we are just our job and our things and everything is logical and science is science, right? But really, there is so much more. And so when we start to rise up in our consciousness, that's when we slowly are going to get to a point where the veil could lift
Mhm.
and we could start experiencing things that we never thought we could experience and we can manifest faster and all of that. So I don't know if you want to speak to that first before we dive into the
No, I mean that
patterns.
was like that was a really good because I do speak in kind of like higher level terms and
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't really understand.
Mhm.
And you're right. It was a moment for me. It was a specific moment for me.
Yes.
However, I came in having experiences that I always put on the back burner.
Mhm.
Years, right? Like things that happened in childhood where
Yes.
I was like, that must have been a
You
dream.
question it.
Or like that wasn't weird or that was real. And then I
Yeah.
personally always had like a really big like fear of ghosts and
Yes.
tarot and the other side.
Yes.
As I
Yes.
think I had a deep knowing that that all
Mhm.
existed and I wasn't
Yep.
ready to address it yet. And so like what was
Yes.
interesting is once I like was like, oh, like I mean I knew, like I never doubted the
Mhm.
existence of aliens, of
Yeah.
ghosts, spirits, of being
An
able
alien rabbit hole is how I woke up, by the way, but I won't go into that.
what?
That is how I woke up in 2020. The first thing that woke me up was some random alien rabbit hole I went down. I can dive deeper, but like
No,
it's
let's save
yeah,
that
we'll hold that for the
for
next one.
because I feel like that could be like a whole other
A
thing.
little much.
A
Yeah, let's
whole yeah.
introductory first.
But it's just like this kind of like you knew your whole life. Like I knew
Mhm. Yeah.
my whole life. Like I
Yes.
never doubted the experience of
Yes.
ghost spirits, the other side dimension
Totally.
next to the dead. However, I was too scared to address it. And then
Mhm.
once I had that awakening, I was like, this is why that fear was like why I had that deep fear because I knew it already existed.
Yeah.
So, none of that is supposed to be scary, by the way. I
Oh,
just want to say that here, like none of that's supposed to be
yeah.
scary. It's all supposed to just be a part of our experience. And whether or
Yes.
not you're ready to engage in that part of that experience, that's what the veil is. Like the veil keeps you safe until you
Yeah.
are ready to get activated into the next part of the experience, which is
Yeah.
the Great Awakening.
Yes, and I also feel that for me, near-death experience videos, I've binged thousands of
Oh my
them, like
gosh, I
over
know.
the last 4 years,
I love
and
that.
that's what pieces together for me what's beyond the veil.
Yeah.
And you see the common denominators in the stories, and so that's what's so beautiful because when you what you realize is that on the other side, it's pure, pure love, a love that you can never comprehend. So truly, what awakening is it's coming closer to the light and recognizing that this kind of like form-filled world is actually technically an illusion. Some like to call it a simulation, but it's real, right? So like, but I would say that understanding that there's so much more. And yeah, I mean, we can just dive in even more if we want on
Yeah.
this because it's amazing.
It's for you, it's past life experiences. For me, what really got me like clicked into the other
Yeah.
side was reading about past life regressions.
Yes, yes. Oh, 100%. Like
Michael
what
Newton, Dolores Cannon,
I
like
was gonna, I was just gonna say that.
yeah, getting into that, I was like, whoa,
Yes.
like this is really interesting because it's like when you see that people they're doing thousands of regressions and people are having
Yes.
similar experiences amongst thousands, like how do you explain that? You know what I
And I
mean?
have to say something to that point. I watched a near-death experience video once where she said that she saw all of her past lives and she actually saw that they were happening all at the same time
At the
because time
same
doesn't
time, yeah,
exist.
everything
Yeah.
happens at the same time. Okay, we're like getting down a rabbit hole, but yes,
Yeah, we gotta bring it back.
everything experienced at the same time. Are you into like have you looked at any of Bashar's
Yes, I
channeling?
love Bashar.
Yeah,
Bashar is amazing.
I know,
The one thing he's told me, like the told me, and he didn't
totally.
personally tell me this, but I watched a video where he was like, circumstances don't matter, only your state of being matters.
Yes.
Circumstances don't matter because circumstances are an illusion.
Illusion.
Only our state of being is real. And it's so hard because we have been completely programmed in what I like to call the matrix to think that everything outside of us is real.
To be um to be fearful, to be worried about judgment, to be worried about
Yes.
like what would happen if, to be
Mhm.
concerned about like everything that we are not in control of. The what we're in control of is
Yes.
us, right?
Yeah.
Our consciousness, our emotions. And once you master that, then you can,
And
really start living the life
yeah.
that we live here.
And that's why I love the Destiny Vibe system because it's like, here's your hero's journey roadmap. I'm not telling it to you. You created it. I'm reading it to you so you remember it. And then you're like, whoa, this is what I was meant to do. And then you focus on what your destiny is instead of letting the outside tell you what you need to be
Yeah,
doing. Right. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And
Okay.
one other point, wait, let me just say one other point.
Okay, okay, okay.
I heard recently that what's happening right now is we are like people like to say we're going from 3D to 5D, okay? And that the original intention of the Earth experiment was in 5D. And what happened is we slowly, over thousands and thousands and thousands, millions maybe years, we went down from 5D slowly into 3D. And that's what like people like to say about the fallen world. Like it fell down. So ascension and revelation are very much the same thing. It's recognizing that a lot of people started to play in these fun things of greed and power and that was all lower. So there are like actual, people on the Earth experiment that are kind of evil, if you will, right? But really, what we're doing is all the light workers came into the physical game to say, nope, we're going to help bring it up. So a
Right.
lot of us are these light, especially if you're watching this right now and you're like, oh my God, I think I am a light worker because you're so empathetic and you can't handle it sometimes. It's because you came to literally change it. And so someone said recently that so much light is hitting the earth now as we rise up with this ascension that it's exposing the darkness. And that's why it feels like everything's falling apart, but actually technically it's all rising up. That's what's so fascinating.
Well, because we have to expose and destroy in order to
Yes,
get to the next step. And yes,
exactly.
we started in the 5D, right? Like when you look at ancient Egypt and like
Yeah.
the other time like
Atlantis and Lemuria.
all of that, that is all like was connected 5D, very highly spiritual. And then
Yes.
we fell down,
Yeah.
and nothing good or bad about that, right? There's no good or bad. It's just where we are. And so if you are here and you're watching this and you resonate with this, you came
Mhm.
to Earth right now for a particular reason. Like there is a particular mission. Um, and it's weird because I don't necessarily when I walk around during my like daily life as a
Yeah,
human in this experiment, I'm not
right.
walking around going, I
Same,
can't save the world, you know?
same. Half the time I'm like, why did I do this?
It just seems very weird. But at the same time, I
Yeah.
notice that my state of being is impacting the people around us. And that's what it
Yeah.
is. It's not like this huge, I'm a savior, I'm a Superman, whatever, but it's just like one person in your group of people that slowly starts to integrate this light, this understanding,
Yes.
this new level of living and existing that
Yeah.
isn't what we are used to.
Yeah.
And so I want to get into the planets. I
Yeah,
want to
let's do it.
get into the planets.
Let's do it.
I want to talk about the Great Awakening and what's
Yeah.
happening in astrology
Mhm.
specifically. Because before we even hopped on this call, you spent like 2 minutes explaining it. I was like, "Pff, okay, like let's start recording. Let's do it."
That's amazing. Okay, so I I always look at the south node and the north node first every time I'm doing like and I like to call it seasonal information instead of horoscopes because just so everyone understands what horoscopes are a generalized way to give you a little dose of something. It's really just taking your sign, which is where the, sun was when you were born, and making it the first house, if you will, of your chart. Doesn't matter if you don't understand what that means. And then like giving you like this general, it's a solar scope. It's not like really your information, right? So I like to, whenever we're doing like, I don't like to ever say that there's any prediction because I truly believe in my heart that creation is finished. All timelines exist. And how manifestation works is we activate a timeline with our thoughts and our focus on it and our beliefs. And I actually am very woo woo. This is going to be very woo woo.
Like
I
actually far more woo-woo than I've ever like had a conversation with you. Why have we never had this type of
We
conversation?
should do this on a regular
Yeah,
basis.
we should.
But I actually believe that there's multiple Earth timelines. I know that sounds weird, but I actually think there's multiple. So I believe that you are in control of believing and trusting and knowing, especially in a relationship with your higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, knowing and trusting that you are influencing what's around you, right? So, with that being said, what I do is not like some prediction. It's all seasonal information that is totally neutral that you get to decide what it means for you. Okay. So I never want to do fear mongering. I think that there's, I was going to say before, I think that there is kind of this enemy, if you will, right? And the enemy is going to infiltrate everything, even the tarot cards and the astrology, and right. So there's good people using these things, and then there's evil people trying to use those things, right? So it's like we just have to like understand that this is not about taking your power away. This is just understanding the themes. Okay, so when it comes to, I like to call it, when it comes to the world of Caesar and our fallen world, if you will, the drama that's playing in the world of Caesar, I love to look at first the destiny line. So the current destiny line, it's usually around a year and a half is when we're in that destiny line. So we were talking before we got on here that there's the destiny and there's the comfort zone, and it's always going to be different for you in your specific hero's
And
journey
you're
roadmap.
talking about the collective right now, or are you talking about
Yeah, the
us?
collective.
Okay, let's, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
want to
So
make
how it
sure.
works is there's layer one, which is the collective theme that we're all experiencing. And then the layer two is where it's happening for you. And that's where it's more customized, right? So we're just going to talk about layer one right now. So for everyone, it's going to like interact differently. Like, so for example, the comfort zone has been in Libra since July of 2023. And our destiny has been in the opposite of Libra, which is Aries. Okay. So, and I'll explain what that means. But on January 11th, we're going to go to a new one. But before we go into that one, let's talk about Libra Aries. So for me, it's been in my home house and my career house for most of the time. So I moved, I'm about to move again, home house, right? And then my career has shifted like a million times this year, right? So it's like that's where it's customized. But let's talk about collectively. So collectively, and I could go back and look at the dates, if someone wants to know the dates, but basically our destiny collectively has been in the survival stage signs of the divine zodiac. There's survival, social, spiritual. That's how it works. So the four survival signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, literally before the pandemic. is when we went into these survival signs. So
Yeah. That's what
through
it
the
feels like.
pandemic,
And doing nothing but surviving
surviving, surviving,
for like
surviving,
4 to 5 years. Yeah.
yes, we've been learning how to survive, right?
Yeah.
So this one is the fire. Because another fun thing about breaking it up, that it's what I call my zodiac formula, because we don't just make up the themes. There's like an actual formula. So with Aries, like Aries is the only fire sign in the survival stage. So that's how you can kind of understand the differences. So fire is pure action, pure soul, pure like go, go, go. So
Mhm.
right now, and Aries is the number one, it's the first sign of the zodiac. It's like, I want to be the best. I want to be number one, victory, victory, victory. Whereas Libra is all about justice and harmony and balance. So
Mhm.
right now we're surfing this balance of relationships versus self versus and then like stirring the pot and getting what we want and going for it versus balancing and maybe people pleasing a little to keep the harmony, to keep the peace. So right now we are in this like justice time,
Yeah.
and it's all going to change, but let's maybe dive into that first if you want to talk about more about that current
And it
collective.
really just feels like it is like we are like two things right now. Like
Yeah.
there is this sense of like we like as a collective, whether or not you believe in this or not, but it's like as a collective, we're all like bringing light to in the injustices and like
Yes.
and being
Yes.
okay, like we cannot operate in this fashion anymore. We cannot be doing this anymore. But then there's the other half that's just like, screw that. Like this is the way it's
Yes.
been. Like, and so it has been this like fight just in society in general of like bringing to light what cannot be anymore. And like also, though, just maintaining that it's okay to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yes, because it's
Kind
all
of,
about self-power right now is
yeah.
the destiny.
So it is very that it does really resonate, I think, for
Mhm.
what we've been going through, especially these last 4 years. Like I cannot, there's not a single person I think that they're gonna say like this last 4 years wasn't all about just surviving
Yeah,
whatever it is that we are going through.
totally.
Every day you wake up and there is something else happening.
Mhm.
New news. There's another
Yeah.
attack. There's another situation. There's another weather
Mhm.
situation. It's just a lot to be
And
considered. Like, when is this going to be over?
yeah, and I was gonna say a lot of that is also the light flushing in, bringing everything up, you know? So it's like, I feel like, I don't know if you feel this, but I feel like a day is now like a month.
A day is like time is, time is subjective.
Time is like weird right now.
It well,
Um,
it's interesting how much is happening. Like the
mhm.
normally, right? What we would
Yeah,
consider, and I think the generation of millennials will say this as a whole. Normally, what we would consider a life event happening in our life now
yeah,
happens twice a month. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's just constantly happening because we have to be like unearthing, bringing
yeah,
light to things, to like making it known that this is existing. Like if you're watching this, we're filming this in October 7th, 2024. So if you're watching this, we have
yeah,
hurricane, we have the Diddy situation, we have
yeah.
the wars, we have like the election that's happening. Like it is just like constant
So
bombardment
much.
of the next thing
Yes.
you don't want to have to freaking absorb. But like the reason why it feels so much is because it has to be this much to
Yeah.
decide, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because like I didn't even realize this until we talked before this, that like now we're about to go into our destiny being the spiritual stage. Like we're
Yeah.
going from survival to spiritual. So on January 11th of 2025,
What I'm
we're
excited
gonna
to
go,
talk about.
yeah,
Go.
we're gonna okay, we're gonna go into destiny and Pisces, which is emotional, spiritual energy. We're going from the lowest of Aries. Now, it's not like these themes are bad or good or wrong, right? It's all neutral, but Aries is the beginning of the cycle where it's like me, survival, survival, right? And then because it goes backwards, we're going into the highest of the divine, like that, which is crazy, right? So our comfort zone is going to be Virgo, our destiny is going to be Pisces. Virgo is physical healing. Pisces is soul healing. It's all going to be about the healing, right? And after that transit's done, in I think it's like July something 2026, probably like July 27th, 2026, around there, we're going to go into Aquarius being our destiny and Leo being our comfort zone. And we're going to just keep going with these spiritual stage signs. So it's almost like we just like went through the survival chapter, and then we're going to go into the spiritual chapter, which is kind of exciting.
It's very exciting, but it brings up a really good point that I want to talk about is
Yeah.
with 2025 is not supposedly supposed to be a good easy year.
Now let's talk about that because I believe that first of all, I believe that life is good and it's bad, right? Nothing is technically everything's neutral. And we know this with our mindset work, right? So I don't like the fear porn, especially when it comes to like this, like, I don't like that. I
Yeah.
don't like
I
it.
mean, there's a lot of people, especially if you're scrolling TikTok and the
Yeah,
astrologers, they're just like, they're fear
I
mongering
hate that.
that, like everything that's going to happen in 2020.
Yep. That's why I'm trying to help people understand that you can activate the timeline you want,
Yeah.
even when it comes to the world. And as you're activating what you desire and things are coming at you, like, wait a minute, this is not what I desire. You have to claim that it's meant to be. You have to claim that God is with you. Like that's what that we are ascending. So we have to like keep our mindset high to be on that timeline, right? So it's like, yes, it's a navigation of the old into the new. That's what we're really doing right now. We're collapsing the old into the new. So I might need to go into the Pluto transit so we can understand that more because that's tied to America. Do you want me to go into that?
Is that's what's going to happen in 2025?
So it's basically, well, 2025, I mean, we could even do a deeper dive on another call because there's like a million transits we could look at for 2025. But I am here to tell you right now that I don't believe it's going to get worse. I believe it's going to get better. I don't know. I'm
Right.
just believing that wholeheartedly because that's where I like to stay. I like to stay in the positivity. I hate the fear mongering of this transit's doing this and it means this. No, all of the transits and all of the themes are 1000% neutral and we get to decide what they mean.
Right.
That's why my system's different than popular astrology.
Right.
Saying.
Right. Yeah. But I do, and I love that. I think
Yeah.
that's absolutely true. Like we all get to choose the reality that we're experiencing, no matter
Yes.
the planets, no matter your
Yep.
destiny, no matter what it is, like what your mission was that
Yes.
you came in to do, whatever your circumstances are, who you were born,
Mhm.
whatever natural disasters are happening, whatever country you're in, you still get to choose how you're experiencing that.
Yes. And the meaning you're making it, the meaning you're putting to it.
The meaning you're putting to it. However, I know that a lot of people, that concept for a lot of people becomes very difficult because then they start to
Mhm.
think about like the circumstance. They're like,
Yeah.
but there's people in war. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? Like, what about those people? Or there's people
Yep.
starving. What about those people? And it's just
Yeah.
like, yes, those are the circumstances, but the experience that the individuals having is really based on that. So,
Yeah.
um, that being said, the circumstances of 2025, based on the planets and
Hmm.
what we're seeing right now, and whatever happens during the election and all of that,
Hmm.
is not really going to be feeling amazing.
Hmm. And let's talk about that because I gotta find it real quick.
People,
What'd you say?
well, it's just that some people are, I guess, I mean, they're just talking about the density that we have to go
Yeah.
through 25.
Oh, let's discuss it.
So that 26 can be what 26 is meant to be. But 25,
Yes.
the 25 is there's some density, right? That we have to
I
experience.
don't see that. I love that you're saying that, but let me
Let's
actually
see.
explain. Let me explain because like we really need to track Pluto to really understand it.
Okay.
This and I'm gonna make this quick so it's very like easy to understand. So you have to understand that Pluto stays in a sign for so long that it takes like 248 years for it to go through all 12. So no one in your lifetime will ever have a Pluto return. Your birthday is a sun return. The day you like it goes to the exact degree that it was on your when you were born. That's a sun return. We're celebrating it with birthdays, right?
Okay.
Some people have Saturn return, like, well, we all have Saturn returns, but right around 29 and a half, 30 is when you have your Saturn return because Saturn is the responsibility planet. And that's when you start to say, okay, let me stop, being a little crazy and let me get some responsibility in my life, right? So no one's ever going to have a Pluto return. Pluto is ruled by Scorpio and it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's literally death and transformation, dying and being reborn anew, which we could see as negative or positive, right? But no one will have a Pluto return, but America had a Pluto return. So that's what we need to talk about. So in
Okay.
1776, it's very hard to do a birth chart of like a country because it's like, what is the time of birth? But there's a lot of like, if you research it, there's a million like versions. But the one main like version of America's birth chart is where Pluto is in 27 degrees Capricorn in the money house of Taurus. Okay. So Pluto, Capricorn, Taurus. That's the combination we're talking about. Okay. So, what does that mean? Death and transformation of the systems, of the power structures. Capricorn represents systems, power structures, career, climbing the corporate ladder. and in the money house, right? So when you look at this, it's crazy because Pluto never went into Capricorn ever again after 1776 until the year 2008,
Oh, yeah.
right when the market crashed, that first big boom of money
Yeah.
crashing down,
Yeah.
right? 2008 is when we really started this transit of Pluto. Like,
Yeah.
if everyone goes back to their life and be like, wow, since 2008, it's been a mess,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what's happening is, let me just look at my notes real quick. So I think the first
I've
time it
been
went
best
into
since
a,
2008.
yeah, yeah. The first time I think it went in, now I don't want to quote this because I didn't like prepare the exact dates, but I think the first time it went back, the first time it went into Aquarius, Pluto, was I think at the beginning of 2023, and it was only there for like a short amount of time. So we kind of felt a little bit of this like new innovation because Aquarius is very community innovation, right? And so now all of a sudden, like we're moving into this like new world in a way, like the Aquarian age, as people say, right? So, but then it went back into the old systems, right? But at the beginning of this year, it finally went into Aquarius again. We were in it all year long until September 1st. And September 1st, it went back to Capricorn. And it's been retrograde. It's about to go direct this week. But here's what's crazy. Okay, so I'm going to get the exact date. November 19th of 2024, election month, my friends.
God, here we go.
Pluto goes into Aquarius and it's going to stay there for 20 years. We are never going back to the old guard. So in my mind, yes, it's probably going to be messy because we're collapsing the old, but I believe that 2025 is the start of the golden age. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm optimistic, Bianca. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's going to be messy. There's
Yeah.
going to be some mess,
Yeah.
whatever
We're
that mess.
collapsing the old.
Yeah. I mean, it's been messy.
Yeah.
2008, really. It's
Yeah.
been,
It's a
um,
bit of a mess. Yeah.
and we're doing the best that we can. But these
And
last,
and here's what another crazy thing I just realized. When the pandemic hit, our comfort zone was in Capricorn. So it brought up more of that Pluto.
that's
So
crazy.
to me, I feel like that moment in time was probably the hardest moment. In my opinion, we've been through the hardest, but who knows, right? And so that's why we have to keep our faith in the positive, our faith in the optimistic flow.
Yeah. No, I mean, I absolutely love that. There is a lot of fear mongering on
Yeah,
like prepared and how to prepare yourself for what's coming and
yeah,
what we're experiencing. And I just love that positivity that you bring to it.
I
Because I think
try.
I mean, that's the whole thing though. Like
Yeah.
all of that being said, the
Mhm.
reason why like all of this light is being shed onto all of these things that we need to unearth and we need to destroy in order for
Yep.
us to new like the new age.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, for like, we've been saying like the term age of Aquarius for years, and I had
Yeah.
literally no idea what that meant. I thought,
Yeah.
like, you know, what's that movie? 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yes.
Do you know that movie? At the
Yes.
end, they make a joke about the age of Aquarius, and everybody's in white and dancing, and it's like this super
Ah,
cool thing. And I was like, it's just this kind of like hippie
yeah.
term. We'll say that it's like about hippies and like, but really, it is about the next age. It's
Mhm.
about this. It's about
Yes.
us stepping into this new way of living, which is not as
Mhm.
dense.
And that's what new age really means. And what's funny is because I believe we need so I follow this woman, she's 90 years old. She teaches romance and it's all about semantic realignment, like using words to realign. I feel we need a semantic realignment when it comes to spirituality because I believe that every type of spiritual thing, ideology, paradigm is talking about the same thing. It's just words are limiting. So
Right.
when you say new age, like even in the Bible, it's like to the end of the age. Like it's talking about, I believe, it's talking about these little chunks of the seasonal information, right? And also, what you're talking about with the Aquarius age is actually a whole other thing. It's just ironic. And I won't dive into that now because we don't have much time, but like Pluto, it's just ironic that Pluto's also going to Aquarius. So it's like it really we're really ushering in this spiritual. And so I think here's how I'll say it. I feel because our destiny is going to be spiritual, if someone right now is really into the physical world being real and they're not spiritual, they may have a tough time.
Yeah.
I feel like they may have a tough
Yes.
time.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah, because
It's the
that,
light workers. We're going to be like, yay, we're doing this. Like, and that's how we have to come together, right? Like,
yeah.
we're building heaven on earth. That's what we're doing. We're going back to the Garden of Eden. That is what we're doing. That to me is what ascension and revelation is, right? So all the new agers that are talking about ascension and all the Christians that are talking about revelation, it's the same thing. We're revealing the dark old guard and we're rising up into this new earth, this new light, this new time, this new chapter.
And if you are allowing your experience to just be the experience that you are seeing outside and
Yes.
not the intention of what that experience is meant to bring out, then you are going to be having a tough time.
Yes, because another thing I'll say is like, not to get political, but like at the end of the day, we create our world,
Yes.
not the politicians.
Right.
Yes, obviously there's importance to that, whatever, whatever. But like we are creating what's happening. We're a collective, and through like the collective energy is what's getting out there, right? Because like in your personal world, whatever you're believing is getting pushed out into your world, but it's happening collectively too. So we have to recognize that it's not just about voting, it's about getting your energy right.
Right. Getting your energy right for whatever circumstance that happens
Yeah.
afterward. Like, because I mean, we can only control that myopic piece,
Yeah.
but it's really what we can really control that's going to have a greater impact on a larger scale for the whole world. The way we
Yeah.
all experience it is our state of being and how we react to other people around us, right? Because then
Yes.
our little actions and our state of being has a little impact that has a
Mhm.
little impact that has a little impact that can grow over,
Yes.
over the course of like, it's like you're nice to one stranger and that stranger is nice to one stranger. And it's just every individual doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I believe that like we have spirit guides, we have God himself, we have, whatever. And I call it my light team. So I'm not like over here being like, it'll be great. I'm like, light team, guide me. Light team, what are we doing?
right. This is not to say that we're not experiencing
Right.
that things like come like they're
Yeah.
part of they're part of Earth school, right?
Yeah, totally.
But this also leads us back to that great awakening
Mhm.
concept, right? So then we have we have the people who are already awakened, where I say like the reason that we awakened before this time is because our mission
Yeah.
is to talk about this openly so that we
Yep.
can bring other people through.
Yeah.
But I think that there's this going to be in 2025, right now through 2026 specifically, a massive like awakening, because I
Yeah.
think that there's going to be this shift of people who are going to choose to stay in that experience of what
That
we're
old experience.
experiencing. And
Yep.
there's going to be this just massive shift of people who are like, this is like, no, I'm not doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And then,
think it's a lot of attachment to like the old and
yeah,
not wanting to let go of it. And I do that's why I feel with this new destiny line, it's really the comfort zone is going to be Virgo and the body and health. So like being in your highest level of wellness and highest level of health is going to be super key to this. Having that morning routine, having that space in the morning with your higher self, God time, whatever you want to call it. Because if you don't have that, you will be thrown into the energy is insane. We are transitioning from something so outdated to something new in this world, America and beyond.
short period of time, really. If you think about your lifetime over the course of the last 5 years, yeah, it feels like a long time, 5 years,
Yeah,
but it really is not. It's a lot has happened, so much. Think about everything that's happened in the last 5 years.
it's crazy.
It's a wild. It's
Wild. We lived 4 decades.
4 decades.
I miss like the 1980s when I was like a baby and I like just chilled.
Things were simple, and your
Super
parents
simple.
go outside, and they're like, "Oh, we'll see you later."
Totally.
But I think that there is this huge shift that's already started.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to become more apparent and obvious
Yeah.
in the next year, really.
Yeah. And
That's my prediction.
yeah, and
And
I definitely think like we could do another video like in the future where we really break down, like really go dive deep into all the different transits for 2025. I'm obviously only speaking about like one or two right now, but yeah, I mean there's like so much more that I haven't
I mean,
even
it's a
gotten
lot. I mean, you and I could probably talk like 5 hours, like
into. Probably.
yes, but we're not going to do all of that,
We're
right?
not gonna do that.
So, okay. I mean, I guess before we wrap it up, is there
Yeah.
anything else that you want to talk about?
I think just recognizing that like what I like to teach on one of my YouTube channels is that consciousness is God, right? God is the totality of all consciousness. You are consciousness, but you are also the character in a movie. So
Right.
we're trying to serve both. And we're also, the third thing happening is this crazy like movie of the Earth experiment and what we're doing there. So it's like giving yourself grace and recognizing like you have the power. I think that's the biggest thing. I think like in these astrology worlds, even in like tarot card and Reiki, it's like I have to go to this practitioner because I don't have the power and they have to tell me like no. We're all coming together to support each other. Sometimes you do need that outside support, right? Like just like you would go to a doctor if your arm was cut off, like you're not going to just be like, oh, let me chill and figure it out. Sometimes we need a specialist, right? But you have the power. You have the power to control how you experience this shift. So I think
Mhm.
that's key.
There is, it's all about, and when I talk about, when I do my guidance to a tarot Reiki, I always
Yeah.
say this is not fortune telling. We're not going to
Yeah.
say, I'm not
Exactly.
predicting the future. What we're doing is we're focusing right now on what's happening right now and what you need a little extra guidance on, what you need a little
Yes.
on. And the whole goal is to help support you on something that you probably already know about, but just
Yeah.
want that like extra little piece of like, okay, that is the right
A
step.
reminder.
Yeah, and I've had a few clients that have left my sessions and they say, I already knew that.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you gave me the final piece or the permission to actually move forward because our
Mhm.
intuition really I and we all have a bad time listening to our intuition. Our intuition tells us all the time
Yes.
what's going to happen or what's happening or how to move forward. It's just getting in touch with that and really
Yeah.
listening. And astrology and tarot and Reiki and all of those modalities are all just permission slips and synchronicities that
Mhm.
allow us to bring meaning to our experiences
Yeah.
and give us the ability to make the decisions that our intuition's already telling us to make. But it's
Mhm.
that permission slip to move forward in that
Yeah,
way.
it's like
Yeah.
any tool in the world, like a productivity tool or a tool in your kitchen. Like it's the same, but it's a tool for your soul, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of times when I read for myself and the cards are just like, I'm
Yeah.
like, but I want the answer because
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
that what you're telling me is already what I know. Can you give me something more? And it's just like
Yes.
not like sometimes you just have to be in the unknowing
Yeah.
for a little bit to get to the next side. But with that being said, for 2025 and like where
Hmm.
my mission and like where I feel very deeply pulled and called to
Hmm.
do right now is to help women with this transition through this
Yeah.
like this period. We were talking before the call. I think that one of the really good things that one of the things I have mastered, I think,
Mhm.
I'm gonna say I know one of the things I've mastered really well is transformation
Yeah.
and really just not only physically but mentally and spiritually. I mean, I used to be somebody that obviously was used to smoke, I used to drink, I used to do drugs.
Hmm.
Decided to stop. I used to smoke 2 packs a week and I just stopped smoking.
Oh, by
Like
the way, me too in college.
oh yeah, see, and then
Yeah.
one day I was just like, and
Yep.
then one day I just decided to stop drinking. One day I decided to stop being obese and
Same.
was like, let's get into this physical lifestyle. And so what I've noticed really, and especially right now, is that
Mhm.
as a collective, we all have goals. We want to get to that timeline, right?
Yeah.
We have an idea of the timeline we want to be at, but there are a lot of things that we're not allowing ourselves to do to achieve that. And we are all masters in our own universe. We're all God
Yes.
own universe.
Yes.
It's just uncovering the thoughts, the beliefs, the actions that are holding us back from achieving
Hmm.
that timeline already exists.
Yes.
Version of you already exists. If you're
But
thinking
yes.
and the healing that needs to be done in order to get
Yeah.
there. So, coming up, that's what I'm going to be bringing because I feel like with this great awakening and everything that we need to be doing as light workers,
Yeah.
to help bring the collective up. I think that there's a big gap in helping
Yeah.
people, helping women specifically in achieving their timeline. And
Yeah.
it's not just meditation and it's not just believing and it's not just doing the actions over and over again. It's a full like healing modality, right? Like
Yeah.
addressing where that belief started, addressing
Yeah.
why taking the action.
Yeah, the
Uh,
subconscious, because I find that everything is like, if you drive a car a million times, you're finally going to learn how to drive. Like everything is a habitual process and then eventually goes into our subconscious mind. So it's the same with like retraining our brain to potentially like do something different. And I find that that's where sometimes like I was telling you before the call, like you're going to do some potential Reiki on my love life because like I'm a master manifester, but there's certain topics where I'm like I might need some cleansing
Yeah.
because we all have baggage and we all have trauma and like this whole life right now is like traumatic. So I think that, that's another thing that's going to be happening in 2025 and half of 2026 is like I said, these themes of the healing of the body, the healing of the soul. We are going to need that collectively, like together. We're going to have to do that together.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be creating that and bringing that. I don't have that yet, but once I do, I will drop the link here so that you can access that. Tell the people how they can work with you, JFO.
Yeah. So my website is justjfo.com, JUST, jfo.com. And you can find you could just click the work with me tab and find all the ways to work with me. And do like either a Destiny video or we can do coaching together. So yeah. And then I also have like a little mini course for $11 if you want to do conscious creation with me, customized to your destiny. So there's that too. Or you could just message me on Instagram. So
Yeah, that's awesome. At just JFO dot or your
yeah.
hand.
So my Instagram is Destiny Vibes with JFO.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
This has been really fun. If you
So
want to
fun.
work with me too, there's links in the YouTube here. I'll drop some links below. But I want to know like from you in the comments, like what did you take away from this video? Like, is there anything interesting? Should we do more of these? This was fun. I had
This
a
was
lot.
so fun.
It was really fun. And I think that we have a lot to talk about, like
Yeah, we really do.
only able to get to like the surface.
The surface.
The
We still have
surface.
to do the alien rabbit hole.
I know we can't. That's a whole another
That's a
hour.
whole other thing. We'll wait on that one.
But let us know in the comments like what you think and how like if this helps supported you in any way. If you're going through an awakening and you're not alone, all right, we're all in this together. Feel free to reach out to us, even if it's just a chat. But thank you for your time today.
Thank you for deciding for us to do this. I'm so
I
happy with it.
I think we're gonna do this again. So
I think we just like expanded the universe through our conversation.
let's do it. I'm about it. All right. Thank you and see you soon.
Bye.